said, if you haven't already done so, please take a second to make sure that you have your episode paused and ready to go at the start. And then in about a minute or so, we are going to get started.
Oh, you're so organized. I think I need your script.
I absolutely have it written down. I like wrote it out as like a little script for myself so that I wouldn't forget like the key points that I wanted to say. I have notes for Untucked too, because afterwards I want to talk, because the Untucked for this episode, incredible. So much drama. So I have things to talk about at the end too, but I come prepared with notes.
That's such an L thing to do.
It totally is, yeah.
I think I need to step up my hosting game after this.
Well, is everybody ready to get started?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let's do it. All right, on the count of 3, we are going to press play. So 1, 2, 3. Yes, it's a musical episode, and we have 2 former Idol contestants.
I was just gonna say, I actually I know that we've talked a lot about them being Idol contestants, but I guess I never really actually put that together, that we've got 2 of them on the series.
Oh, I hope we get to sing in that like lip sync.
I'm sad to see Vivacious gone.
Me too.
I'm glad we get to see the outfits again.
I still feel like my least favorite of those costumes was Gia's, personally. It just was a little too laser tag.
I was getting Flotsam and Jetsam from The Little Mermaid, from that that costume that Gia had. Maybe some Ursula too.
Yeah, definitely some kind of Disney villain.
Time code. Oh, I didn't hear you say that again.
I am.
Thank you.
So this is I guess, I mean, they started to kind of hint it in the last episode that Bianca and Gia are enemies, but now I'm really feeling it.
Gia's very, very dramatic. Okay, so Ben de la Creme and Adore won the mini challenge. That's why they're team captains.
Aha. Are you going to tell us afterwards what's up with this mini challenge? Why
Yes.
they cut it, and what's the tea?
Yes, I will spill everything.
Okay.
Yeah, this is weird not seeing it. It's just not right.
It was such an abrupt jump.
Oh, poor Trinity.
Oh no.
Ben de la Creme, I see like the drag persona and the non-drag persona as the least similar. I sometimes have to be like, wait, who is that?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
confounds a lot.
Adela's definitely a character.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Look.
Oh, sing off.
This is awesome.
Awesome.
Oh my god, this is incredible. I'm gonna call it early. I think Trinity's going home.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
I'm gonna call it early.
I think attitude plays just as big a part as anything else in these types of
Exactly. And Trinity's just, the confidence is not there.
Yeah.
And this episode has been telling us that a little bit more than previous episodes.
That voice. Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I was thinking. It was Fran Drescher.
Yeah, either they're setting it up as the underdog who in the end just pulls it out, just barely makes it, or Trinity's going home.
There's so many contestants. I'm having a hard time learning all of their names.
Yeah, I still don't know any of them.
Yeah, same.
Jocelyn's underrated and hilarious because that was really quick. Would it be helpful to do or post something later with the queen's names and pictures again?
Yes.
I still have my diagram.
I think so.
It's been a while.
Repost, Regina.
It always takes me like half a season to remember their names and then by then half of them are gone.
Yeah, I used to have the same problem when I'd watch like America's Next Top Model or something. It's always so hard to learn people's names from.
I'd be so nervous if I couldn't sing. Oh no.
I can definitely see Gia being in the bottom. I just think too big of a personality to let go of this early.
I feel like they're always explaining things to her.
Poor Adore. Adore's another one who like seems to struggle with confidence a lot.
Yeah, that's true. But Adore's got a an immense amount of talent that you can just sort of feel regardless.
And for me personally, I think Adore is a better singer than Courtney.
Yes, I think
agree with that.
I think that that's true.
Yeah, and I think that even though Adore struggles with confidence, I feel like she still has personality. Like she's not as self-deprecating as Trinity, and the self-deprecation is not an attractive quality.
Yeah, I think Trinity kind of takes herself seriously, like too much.
This is gonna sound weird. Has anyone ever seen interviews of Scarlett Johansson, whatever, when she doesn't understand? They were showing behind the scene things on Marvel when she wasn't quite getting a scene, whatever, and she had this look on her face, and Adora has the same eyes. That's all I can see now.
Oh,
I have
I
to
was
go
thinking
watch
of
that
something
now.
different when you mentioned Scarlett Johansson and Marvel. There's like a clip of like her and Chris Hemsworth. And it's like a joke, but he says, "You're lucky you're beautiful," because there's literally nothing. And he's referring to her brain.
Yeah.
I think that's what you were referring to, but
I've seen that. That wasn't the one I was referring to, but yeah, like she has this look on her face sometimes where she's like, "I'm lost," and Adore has it too.
I know we're pretty far from this, but I found it very funny that April said a downward Debbie. I don't know if anybody else caught that. There was a lot of chatting at that time, but I found it very funny. And then she was like, I don't know what her name is.
Wow, there is so much tension between all of them. You can tell there's something going on. They're just all so at each other's throats.
Yeah, I wonder if we're gonna get more when Elle talks about the Untucked episode. But I wonder if something happened in the house or something there, because I wish we could see that sometimes. Their interaction.
They're not allowed to interact.
Oh, okay.
So they're in a hotel room, and they're not allowed to talk at all. Like there's even been queens that have said that, like when they go back to the hotel, like after the final runway and elimination, they're not allowed to speak to each other.
Ooh.
Even if they're in like the same bus, they're not allowed to talk because they want it all on camera.
That's interesting. Huh.
I have started, like with this episode, I've started to notice Bianca more because her shade game is so good and she's very witty.
Which one is Bianca?
She well, she had a striped shirt on earlier. I mean, I don't know how else to.
she's on screen now
Yeah.
with the gold eyeshadow.
The one that just talked about tucking the weenie.
She
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
She made a comment earlier about Gia starting to grow on her. And then she said, like a rash, and she won me over with that line.
No, I like her too.
That's cool.
That is cool. Kabuki is cool.
I'm gonna have to look that up now.
Very.
Rouge dress is very shiny tonight.
Those eyes.
Rue's eye makeup is gorgeous.
I'm
This is
always in
fun.
awe.
This is funny because these are all so clearly written. Every single thing that they say.
Shirley Ralph is here. I didn't know she was here. Come.
I love her.
And she's stunning.
Oh, that's definitely milk.
I love how you think that.
That's definitely milk. Oh, yes. Oh, Trinity's not going anywhere. She's fine.
This is so cute.
Oh my
Courtney's
god.
acting is
Man with
great.
one eye.
This is so awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much.
This is like Phantom of the Opera with a sing for me.
Drink for me.
Yeah, this is
Oh my-
awesome.
She's amazing.
I'm blown away.
Oh my gosh, that note.
Oh, yes.
She
That
can
was a lot
sing.
better than when
Yes,
she was
yes,
in
yes.
Yeah.
That was
That was
incredible.
so good.
Oh
That sounded-
my goodness. That was
Courtney is a star.
amazing. Courtney's at the top for me.
Yeah, she was my number 2, but now I'm racing. I'm going to her.
Well, well, well. Ooh. Yes. Oof.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, wow.
Wow.
That was good. Oh, I get it. Oh, so this second one is actually like what happens after she took the swig. I got it.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, this
he's
is
going
so
down.
amazing.
Oh,
Yikes, these three are really struggling.
Yeah, I like
They
the
are.
performance
Let's
of
be
the
completely
first.
honest. These three are really struggling.
I like these white outfits though. They're cute.
Oh my gosh, milk.
Milk's amazing.
Milk is wonderful.
Walk
Step over the body.
So good.
She looks like she could be in Cats.
Oh my gosh, milk is incredible.
And this is why Milk is my favorite.
They reference like every musical in this.
Yeah, I got some Dream Girls, some Sparkle. Like there's a lot.
I mean, I kind of feel like milk is stealing the show.
I agree.
This is amazing.
The white dresses, the white dresses with Friends remind me of Tina Turner's gold dress. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
the legs?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That-
Milk's height really works for her because she's like 20 feet tall. And she just stands out no matter who she's on the stage with.
That was so good. That was just so good.
They all look amazing.
Why are we getting like a compressed version of this?
Because they need to get their critiques. So I think they just shortened it. Milk's look is amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, this
Yeah,
is one of my, oh my God, milk.
I think the music,
Milk is-
I
milk
think
is
the music
pregnant.
competition,
Was that
the
a
musical
pregnant-
kind of went over a little.
Milk is,
Yes,
I
Milk.
think milk might be creeping up into my like top two.
I love her.
You're safe.
She is so pretty.
Milk is just great.
She's making too many excuses.
She's very, very
Yeah.
defensive.
A lot of excuses, but I do like that crap before it became a shit thing. That was kind of fun.
I don't feel like she knows the excuses. I feel like she's just very, very defensive. And so it comes off as excuses. Like she's very insecure and defending herself all the time, even when she doesn't need.
I do love that dress that she's wearing, the Darian, the dress she has on.
And
Oh,
with,
yeah. Me
with
too.
Trinity too, with her speech thing, she's defensive about it because when she's performing, she wears what's called a flipper. And it's like fake teeth because she's also self-conscious of the way her teeth look. So she wears fake teeth for performing, and that
Mm,
influences the way that she sounds.
okay, I'm remembering her teeth in another scene. That makes sense.
I think Ben de la Creme de la is safe, super safe.
I think I'm a little bit behind because of ad.
Oh, that was a little
Yeah,
cocky.
Yeah.
she got defensive there too.
Yikes.
I have a theory as to this, which I'll talk about afterwards, because I think the casting and the roles I think were written for certain people. And I don't think that April got the role that she was supposed to.
Gotcha.
I'm interested to hear that afterwards. Yeah, I'm still thinking that Trinity is in the bottom, but I'm also thinking that April's in the bottom.
I love Show so much.
Darian is falling a little flat from the first time we saw her, so I hope she gets it back soon.
She had a Barry Mulholland Drive quality,
Yes, she did.
right?
Yes, you nailed it.
It's nice that the guest judges are like actually involved in this process.
Yeah.
April looks a little bit right now like if toddlers and like if you saw somebody from Toddlers and Tiaras all grown up, that's the vibe I'm getting from her right now.
Yeah, I feel that.
I'm totally feeling that. Yes. I'm saying Trinity and April in the bottom. That's my pick. And I don't know. I'm thinking Trinity because April's really good with those lip syncs.
Who do you think's winning?
Oh, winning is Adore.
I'm starting to think Courtney's winning.
I think Adore. I would like it to be Penny because I liked her a little bit better, but I think it's a.
Okay, well,
Oh wow! Okay, nice. It's interesting. She got kind of the hardest critique of that. No, well, no, I guess Ben or Dela got probably the harder one.
every time I see Kinky Boots, all I think of is Gilmore Girls and Taylor saying it.
And hearing Kinky
Was
Boots over and
Kinky
over and over again.
Trinity's dress is very lovely though.
All right, I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna say Trinity, just because I know that April's good with lip sync, and I just don't think that.
Oh, the sing off. Trinity already looks defeated.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trinity.
Okay, Trinity is. All right. Oh no, April. The end.
Yeah.
It's over for April.
Yeah.
That fan. That was great.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
fan is working for her. I mean, just everything.
You need some fanography for sure.
Looks amazing.
Trinity's
Ah,
here.
Yeah.
She saved herself. She saved herself. I mean, they're kind of making it seem like it's really like close, but I mean, not that April's doing poorly, but Trinity's just crushing it.
That came from nowhere.
Yep.
Earlier she said that she wasn't good in the acting challenge and like, but that's what lip syncing is. Like you have to be good at acting to lip sync and make it look convincing.
Maybe she just didn't want to sing for real, like the musical made it.
This is the first episode where I'm really legit sad. April was absolutely one of my favorite, and I still put her pretty high in my list.
I feel bad for her because I think the language barrier is like something that held her back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like not April, Trinity, like you said, like Mandy, you said acting is important to lip syncing, but if you don't have the confidence to speak, it's easy to impersonate someone else and put on that persona, but when you let your voice out, you're kind of giving yourself, and that's very intimidating, I think, for some.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
I'm bummed. I don't know why, but I'm kind of bummed because I really liked April a lot. she was so sweet, and then she just got crushed by this challenge.
It's unfortunate because you do have challenges like this that kind of skew in some queens' favor more than others, because you can be a fantastic drag queen but not be able to sing live. And that's just kind of the unfortunate thing about a challenge like this, is that you are going to be judged on your singing ability, and there happens to be professional singers as part of the cast. So
Totally. And I actually, because if April had given the kind of performance that she gave in her lip sync, if she had given that in the musical, which she couldn't have because she doesn't have that voice, she wouldn't have even been in the bottom. I also am not completely sure I agree with the judges that she was like. I feel like the critique that they had about the use of her body, or the padding that she put in to sort of create that sort of big hipped drag queen, I feel like that critique was mostly just like, I guess I just didn't totally buy it. I felt like mostly it was like she sounded awful, and that was the bottom line.
I'm the opposite. I agree with what they said, because when she was on stage, like, you have to, like they said, you have to like embody that big body, you know, so your movements kind of have to become bigger, especially because you're on stage, to match that.
Oh, right. So, well, so
Prosthetic,
give
you
me
know,
an
and they were really,
example. What, like, you like
like, there was
yeah,
a
I guess I'm
part,
not.
yeah, no, like there was a part when she was talking, like she put her hands out and she kind of like, you know, grabbed her breast, whatever, but like it has to be a big movement. If you're gonna be on stage in that kind of prosthetic, you know, you need to make sure the people in the back of the row can see what you're doing. And her movements didn't match the persona she was supposed to have.
That's a good point. So I really believe that role was written specifically for Darian, because Darian is the one quote unquote big girl in the cast, and I don't think that production thought Darian would be on the team that she was chosen for. They've been hinting at a little bit of drama already between. I think we've identified that there's certain queens that are not getting along really well. And there's definitely two queens that it will kind of unfold a little later. And I think that
Can I guess?
They, as in production. Yeah, sure.
Gia and Bianca.
Well, that was one we talked about before, but this is specifically related to like how Darian got chosen, or who picked Darian. In that I think that, you know, kind of production this is just a guess that I have, and there's been like a lot of like conspiracy theories throughout like the Drag Race fandom, where a lot of people just think that seemed like a very obvious role that would have been written and created for the one big girl in the cast. So it wasn't really supposed to be for April anyway. So once April kind of got stuck with the role, she was kind of at a disadvantage from the start.
And I also feel like last episode, she also kind of got stuck with, I don't know if it was a role that was meant for somebody else, but it was also a role that was sort of outside of her wheelhouse.
Yeah.
It was like,
butch
she has to play a sort of butch,
a
butch drag queen. I mean, it's like, that's just the absolute opposite of April. April is this like kind of quiet, you know, sweet. I mean, it's kind of a bummer, because then you do see other queens that do seem to be given stuff that like just completely plays to their strengths.
Yeah.
I don't think that we've seen Dela get anything that like is outside of that like very clear Dela style of drag queen.
And Dela got to cast herself,
right,
as team captain. So that kind of set her up too. But yeah, I feel bad for April, but said also she was in the same little grouping with Laganja and Jocelyn, and Jocelyn was supposed to be playing more of the quote unquote butch queen character, and absolutely was not. Like there
Right,
really
right.
were no elements pulled from Jocelyn that would have been anything that April couldn't have done. And then Jocelyn and Laganja were safe.
I
Right.
think their performances were like passable, and April stood out to them as like more awkward and not fitting the role or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really disagree with their decision because there were plenty of other girls who, you know, can't sing who did a good job, like Mill.
Yeah. Although Mill couldn't sing, but seemed to be like in the like general vicinity of the notes.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you know, it's just more of a sad, like, I really liked April. I mean, there's no way that April has the chops to get to the end. So, I mean, she goes at some point, but she certainly doesn't have the talent of a Courtney or an Adore. But still, it was sad. I really liked her a lot.
I don't know who wrote that musical, but Elle, you were right. They referenced so many, like, made reference to so many musicals. I loved it how they mixed all those like things into the musical. It was brilliant.
It was Lucien, the guy that was
the
helping
guest,
them and who was
the
the
judge?
judge as well. Yeah,
Okay.
he wrote it.
He is brilliant.
Yeah, the musical was amazing. I at first I didn't really get that. I thought that they were just sort of, there were like two different interpretations of the same first part of the story, but then I got it, like, oh, that the second group was basically like the second act of the Rusical.
I'll also explain what happened with the mini challenge, because like as everyone pointed
Yes.
out, it was really just this abrupt like change. So when the show originally aired, they aired a mini challenge, and the mini challenge was called Female or She-Male, and it was, and this is the words of the show, the queens were shown close-up body parts, so like lips, for example, or like a chest area, and had to identify whether the person was a biological woman or a psychological woman. Incredibly transphobic.
Right.
Immediately after it aired, there was a huge uproar, and then they said that they would not air it again in future runs.
Wow.
However, it has occasionally made it onto some of these streaming sites. So like I know when I was showing this show to like some other people, and I was surprised that it was on like Netflix for a while. So sometimes it kind of slips through, but it got pulled immediately, like after it aired, because there was such an uproar.
Wow.
And that's why it's not in what we watched.
Wow. Did you watch it when the show was on? Did you?
Yes.
Were you watching?
Yeah.
Do you remember your reaction to it while you were watching it?
I wasn't entirely surprised because of, I mean, a lot of the earlier seasons, there's a lot of transphobic humor. So it really wasn't a huge shock to me. I remember thinking that it was like, okay, this feels kind of uncomfortable, but if they're airing it, I guess it's okay. But then afterwards, reading about everybody's comments and reading, there was quite a few people who wrote articles about it, and it was really eye-opening, and I'm really glad that they changed it. And this is one of the few things from, as I mentioned, I think, I'm not sure if it was last episode or the episode before, but there have been a lot of changes because of this season, and this was one notable thing. So it wasn't just like because of the public outcry about it. Contestants on the show also spoke out about their thoughts and feelings,
and that
about
was
how the challenge was.
And that was, I mean, ultimately, it was okayed by Rue. I mean, there's no way that Rue didn't know about that challenge going forward. And
Rue was the one who hosted the challenge.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But he's also talent. So there's also producers behind the scenes that are
Yeah.
writing a lot of this stuff. So you could make the excuse that like, well, he maybe didn't know about it as it was being written. It was sort of handed to him,
No.
the script, and he had to do it. But I don't really buy it. I think that he would. And so my question there is like, because a challenge like that, which is so obviously transphobic, so is that kind of, is that sort of what we were talking about last time, where there's a bit of a, like Rue has a bit, or at least back then had a little bit of a problem, I guess, with actual like transgender women versus drag queens, and is that like, would you say that that's, if he knew about it and if he sort of okayed it, which I kind of have to imagine that he did, that this is a sort of an example of like throwing shade at the transgender community, or is it a little bit more of like, we're just having fun with what we think is a sort of larger collective community?
The original minigame, they did use drag queens as the, you know, she-male part of it. It wasn't trans women that they used for that, but like it doesn't really make it any better. It's just like, at least they weren't targeting trans women specifically. But
Yeah,
Rue
I
is
guess
like notoriously transphobic, I guess.
Yeah. I just
and-
wonder if it was, if there was any of this, if it was kind of a, whether there was a sense that it was towards.
I think it's seen it like in the like queer community, that sort of stuff was like acceptable jokes like for a long time. Like even now there are like circles where it's still like joked about, and they like throw out the word tranny and things like that. And I've got trans friends who still like will participate in those sort of jokes and stuff because they don't want to like feel excluded or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's like a toxic part of the community that find it funny.
Right.
Is even the lyrics in some of Rue's songs have a lot of transphobic references.
I was gonna say, like, this season alone, like the little pre-video that plays, it says you've got she-male.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I was trying to remember when I watched this, because I believe I watched this a year after it had premiered. So season 7 was going on around that time. And I'm trying to remember if Logo aired that like mini challenge, but I just can't place it. But I'm trying to think, like, I'm trying to put myself at that time. And I think I probably would have been where like Elle was at with it, because they had that like you've got she-male segment and they had that mini challenge. I would have been a bit uncomfortable, but again, I would have seen it like, okay, they have this. So I mean, I guess
I would like to think that I would have been more aware at that time. I don't think I would have. I would have assumed that like they're joking, everyone's joking, and that it's just like that everyone must be okay with it. Like it's so clear now in you know, in hindsight.
right.
And you know, obviously our world is very different. People are much more aware of that. But I'm not completely convinced that I would have, watching it back then when it aired, would have recognized the problematic aspect of it.
Yeah,
That's the reason why I asked Elle.
14, 15-year-old me definitely would not have recognized it either.
So that,
Especially,
and that was
this
just basically my
first
question
season.
for you, Elle. I was mostly trying. I kind of was trying to like time travel a little bit myself. Like how would I have reacted back then? You know, I know how I would react now, but back then I don't really know. And you know, I also, you know, part of it is, of course, trying to get into the mind of RuPaul a little bit, you know, and trying to understand him and that whole culture of throwing shade at other queens that are, you know, that doesn't even have anything really to do with that, you know, that particular discussion, just like the cattiness of queens and always trying to sort of like one up the other on how shady you can be, that whole culture, you know, trying to get into the mind there and trying to understand, you know, what was the actual motivation at the time. Has the memento dropped here? I feel like
it has not.
Okay, good. I don't want to like get too sucked into conversation and find out that like half of them are gone.
I find it interesting that you told us about the whole like trans issue with this episode, because when RuPaul introduced the piano player, he introduced the piano player as a trans individual who was the first trans individual to do something. I'm not sure what though.
Do you want to speak sometime?
No, I'm sorry, I hit the button by accident. Sorry.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about was the Untucked for this episode. I'm so sad that it's not accessible to so many people because it's iconic. This whole season for Untucked, like if you think that what you see in these episodes, you see the queens kind of going at each other's throats. It's 10 times that in Untucked. In this particular episode, so you have the safe queens that go back first, which was Milk and Bianca and Laganja and Jocelyn and Gia. And Gia spends like the whole time just shading everybody. And she absolutely can't stand Milk and Milk's style of drag. And they kind of are really, well, more so Gia, because Milk doesn't really care. But Gia has to be heard. And there's a video message from Laganja's parents. So one of the features in Untucked is usually they might get a little video message from, say, like a random celebrity or a family member or a close friend or something like that, as like words of encouragement. So Laganja's parents send a really like sweet, supportive message, sort of kind of like to interrupt all the drama. And Laganja's having a really like emotional time with it. And you can see that she's kind of struggling a little bit because, as she says, it's like the first time she's really heard those kind of words from her parents. And then the mood is really heavy. So Bianca cracks a joke and is really kind to Laganja, but basically changes everything by saying that the only thing I disagree with is that you're going to win, because Laganja's parents said, like, you know, you're going to win the crown and all that kind of stuff. So everybody kind of laughs. There's a big shift in the mood and everybody starts kind of chatting about their own experience with their parents, and it's a little bit lighter. But Laganja is furious because she wanted the attention for herself, because it was her moment and she doesn't feel like it should have been taken from her. This is a big theme that comes up a lot in Untucked, and it sometimes slips out into the main episodes here and there, but it's a huge thing in this season of Untucked, with a lot of the queens dealing with sort of like their confidence issues, as we noted in this episode with Trinity and even Adore. And then you have Laganja in this case, who has sort of the first meltdown, and then Bianca apologizes and they kind of try to end things on good terms, but it's a lot of drama. And I wanted to mention it because it does come up again later, like the sort of that kind of drama, and specifically Bianca's apology. That's what I'll say. To Laganja in this case comes up later, so it's kind of an interesting moment. But Untucked is really important in the show, and it gets referenced a lot. And it was actually, there's moments from past Untucks that were referenced in the musical. I don't know if anybody caught that. I guess people who wouldn't be familiar with the show probably wouldn't know exactly what those references are. But the reference in the musical is going to help you solve the password for the memento which just dropped.
Oh,
Wait, do it again.
Yo. The reference in the musical that is referenced in Untucked. I mean, how in the world will we? Okay, we're gonna have to do some Googling on that, I guess. Let's see here.